They say the world doesn't change in a moment, but if you've been standing on the hot blacktop outside Lakeview Auto Group that Tuesday, watching a grown man in a faded black ball cap and oil-smudged jeans get pressed face down on the hood of a Lexus he technically owned, you'd probably argue otherwise funny how some moments feel like they split your life in two, right then and there, and if you blink you might miss what it cost to get back up again. You know what I mean? Terrence Bledsoe was not the kind of guy to flex, wasn't rolling up in a Lumbo, not showing off any bling, drove the same old Chevy with a cracked windshield he'd used back when he mopped floors a decade earlier. Just muscle memory parking it in the corner spot, iron jeans, clean hoodie, same black cap he'd had for years, just a regular guy chasing the next sunrise over the Gulf Freeway. Still half convinced his luck would run out before his coffee did. He just bought the place. Finally, at 40 Twofter Banks laughed him out the door after the deals that fell through. After all the nights sitting up with Denise, his wife, counting every damn penny until the numbers blurred, but that morning, as he unlocked the front door alone, he was still the last to believe it had actually happened. He'd arranged to meet old Doug from Baytown Tire Guy, who still shook hands and signed invoices by pen because, in his words, emails for politicians, but before Doug's beat-up van even showed, something fell off. A sedan across the street, a patrol car drifting into the lot, not slowing down, and suddenly he was staring at two white officers, one hand resting on his holster, the other with that cop posture that says, "I already decided who you are. Can I help you all with something?" Terrence tried to keep it neutral, voice low, hands out, nothing sudden, the drill you teach your kids for all the wrong reasons. "Yeah," the taller cop shot back. "What are you doing here? The lot's closed. Someone called about a break-in just like that. Every bit of sweat and sacrifice, every loan and late night, shrunk down to a moment where all they saw was a black man in a hoodie with a backpack and keys. "I own this place," Terrence said, patient, too used to this dance, "just got in early." "You got ID?" "Inside. Office is open. I can stay where you are. Keep your hands visible," came the bark. And that's when the cuffs came out, and it was clear that nothing he said was going to matter until somebody else spoke up. Across the street, old Howard, who'd lived there since '88, peered through the blinds and sipped his bitter coffee, muttering about "doesn't look right" before calling 911, describing a tall black guy, hoodie and jeans, acting like he owns the place, no tools, no break-in, just walking back and forth, but somehow that was enough. Dispatch sent officers who, before they even turned in, were already sure this was a guy stripping parts before opening. No lights, no sirens, just that quiet certainty you hear in voices that think they've seen it all. So here's Terrence, standing in front of his own glass door, hands splayed on the warm hood of a Lexus he'd just signed the financing for a week before, feeling every pair of eyes turn him into a suspect, hearing the officers ask the same questions in different ways, not really listening, not looking for proof, just looking for a reason to keep him under control. His backpack, laptop, brisket lunch, and the folder stamped with his name on the paperwork sat on the concrete, half-zipped, ignored. But you know how every story has a witness? Deja, a finance assistant who'd arrived early, sat quietly in her Camry, phone trembling in her hand as she hit record, heart pounding, watching the whole thing play out. She texted the manager, "Valeria, something bad is happening, cops cuffed Mr. B," and that message, small as it was, started a chain reaction you couldn't put back in the bottle. Valeria barreled down the avenue in her old SUV, barely brushing her hair, adrenaline spiking, because after 11 years at Lakeview, she knew every single person who'd ever set foot on that lot, and she sure as hell knew Terrence didn't need to be checked out. She marched straight up, no hesitation, no apologies, told the officers exactly where to find the ownership paperwork, pointed out the badge on the window, the photo on the desk, and made them look at what they refused to see. "You gonna let me open my own door?" Terrence asked, trying to hold on to whatever dignity was left. "Or are you gonna kick it in and explain that to my insurance?" No answer, just more silence. When they finally uncuffed him, no apology, no eye contact, just "we were responding to a call." The ache in his wrist was nothing compared to the anger simmering in his chest. The knowledge that if Valeria hadn't shown up, if Deja hadn't hit record, he'd have been another invisible casualty. But this time, there was a record to every clipped word, every hard pull on the cuffs, the way they searched the office for something that proved their hunch instead of the truth. Deja, hands still shaking, handed him the video. I didn't want to post it without your permission, but I sent it to you, just in case. And that's when it started. The clip went viral overnight, and suddenly Terrence wasn't just a dealership owner. He was a headline, a trending hashtag, a conversation people had over breakfast about who belongs where and why. Strangers stopped by the lot, some to buy cars, some just to shake his hand, some to say, "Thank you for not yelling, for not running, for not giving them what they wanted." His staff, Rami, the new text, walked a little taller, and the silence that usually follows these things got filled with questions. What if Valeria hadn't come? What if there was no video? Why didn't they just check the office? By Friday, Terrence's story was everywhere. Reporters called, lawyers offered to take the case. Activists wanted him to be the face of something bigger, but he wasn't interested in being a symbol, just wanted to sell cars, go home to Denise, maybe catch a Rockets game and not have to explain the red marks on his wrists. But you can't hide from your own story, not when people start writing letters, like the history class at Edison High who sent him 30 handwritten notes saying he made them feel seen, or the old barbershop owner from College Station who wrote, "Brother, I can't buy a car, but I told every man in my chair what happened." You're speaking for more of us than you know. Even the police department felt the heat. Internal Affairs called, wanting a quiet meeting, offering the usual policy breach lines, hoping it'd all fade in a week. But Terrence brought his lawyer, told the truth, and left knowing some stains don't wash out that easy. The video spread farther, got remixed into a rap track, played in classrooms, sparked threads about bias and justice, and what it means to finally be believed. Some folks called for the officers to be fired. Others said, just let it go. But Terrence wanted neither revenge nor martyrdom, wanted accountability, something better for the next person walking in his shoes. One night, after reading those letters from the students, Terrence finally set up his phone, stared into the lens, and let the words come out, raw and unscripted. I stayed calm because I've had practice. But I'm tired of practicing, I just want to be. The video took off, and suddenly, silence was no longer an option. The mayor called, so did a state rep, but what mattered were the kids, the employees, the small moments of solidarity that built back something the cuffs had tried to break. So he started the Ownership Track, a mentorship program for young black professionals, because as he told Valeria, I don't want the next Terrence to get cuffed in his own parking lot. And that grew, month by month, as kids came through the door and left with not just knowledge, but permission to belong, to claim space, to write their own story. And if you ask me, that's where the real ending lives, not in the headlines, not in the viral videos, but in the everyday choices to stand up, speak out, and keep showing up no matter who tries to write you out. That last video, he made just him in the quiet dealership. No script, no hashtag, was the one that stuck with people, because he said what so many are scared to admit. Success doesn't make you safe. Keys, contracts, none of that shields you from being seen as a threat if folks already made up their minds. But what happens after, that's on you. If you care about justice, don't just speak when it's easy. Take the pen back. Write the ending yourself. If you felt something in this story, if it made you question, even for a second, and scroll past, share what you think. Because these stories, they aren't just stories. They're real, and they're still happening.